Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm so excited to finally be making this video. And if you follow me on Instagram, you know that I recently passed my NCLEX-RN. So for those of you that are new to my channel, hello, I'm Brittany. I'm a new grad registered nurse. And today I'm going to be talking about my experience, the day of NCLEX, what I used to study. So if you guys want to hear about my experience, then let's just get on into the video. Alright, so I'm going to first start off by saying thank you to everyone who has supported me throughout this entire journey. For my loyal subscribers, thank you so much. Be sure to follow me on social media. I'll post all those links down in the description box below. And so I graduated from an ADN program, which is an associate's degree program, and I will be beginning my RN to BSN in September at a university. I graduated on May 22nd, and I had gotten the okay from my school to register for the NCLEX 2 weeks prior to graduation. However, I found that in our case, we had to wait until our school sent over our final transcripts, which wasn't until after graduation. So I paid for my fees and registered for NCLEX 2 weeks prior to graduation, graduated on May 22nd, and I received my authorization to test on June 5th. So on June 5th, I originally scheduled my test for July 15th, and then I started studying. So I gave myself a little bit of time because I really felt overwhelmed at first. I wasn't sure where to begin. I wasn't sure if I was studying everything correctly, so I went ahead and what I used to study was UWorld. I know a lot of you guys have seen other videos, and everybody that I have talked to all used UWorld and they all passed on their first try. Now, I'm sure there's exceptions to the rule, so it's not guaranteed. So I used UWorld, and then I also listened to Mark Klimek audios, and I used Saunders NCLEX-RN. I'll put a picture of the book somewhere in this clip, and I'll break down kind of how I used everything. So for Saunders, the way I used that book was when I was doing UWorld, I would come across topics that I did not feel very confident on. So on those particular disease processes or medications, whatever it may be, I went ahead and I looked into the NCLEX Saunders book and I read a little bit more in depth. So that is a good book if you really want to read a lot more about a specific disease process. But that's how I use the NCLEX Saunders. And then, so for example, I would always confuse and had a hard time with Addison's and Cushing's and hypo and hyperthyroidism. So I went ahead and I looked into those disease processes in the book, and then I completed the questions on the back of the chapter. So that's how I used that book, and it was really helpful because it has a lot of in-depth information. So then for UWorld, the way I used UWorld was I purchased the 6-month subscription. I purchased it back in January, and then I also purchased the 2 self-assessments that came with it. And I took the first self-assessment maybe a couple days after graduation, and I actually got a low chance of passing on that first self-assessment. So I was a little nervous, I was a little scared, and that is what kind of made me schedule my test date like 6 weeks out. So I went ahead and started my studying. Every day I would do about 75 to 150 to 200 questions a day. And the way I broke it down was through the way UWorld had it set up. UWorld has it where it has different categories. So it has adult health, it has child health, it has mental health, OB, it has pharmacology, and then it had prioritization, delegation, and ethics. So I went ahead and started with adult health, and then within the adult health portion, it broke it down into each body system. So I had this little notebook. It was my UWorld's notebook, and what I would do with it, it's tabbed here, and within the tabs, so for example, I started, say for cardiovascular, I wrote down the rationales for UWorld. UWorld has amazing rationales for why you get something wrong or why you get it right. So when I would get it right, I would read it, but I wouldn't write the rationale. When I would get it wrong, that's when I would read the entire thing and then I would write it in my own words. And so I did that for each body system. And along with each body system, I also did the pharmacology questions that pertain to that particular body system. So say I was on cardiovascular, I would then do the pharmacology section for cardiovascular medications. And that is how I did it here. So then I also had it endocrine. Endocrine was really kind of challenging for me at first, but now I felt comfortable. And then GI, and then I had hematology and oncology. I skipped a bunch. Immune system, and then I had integumentary. And also every day I would go over all of the lab values. Make sure you guys are like with lab values because you do not want to miss those. Those are fundamentals. Also, one of the last topics I saved for last were the reason I left fundamentals kind of for last is because that is like, I kind of wanted to review. I'm really good on fundamentals as it is, and I knew that on the test, I was going to be given questions regarding fundamentals. Like those are, I feel like are free points in my head. They should have been free points. So I went ahead and I did that. And then, so I completed all of the questions. I did quite a bit every single day. And then after that, I went ahead and every day that I would do, so say I was on cardiovascular, I would do my UWorld questions, write my rationales, look in my NCLEX book if I needed that extra, extra review. And I also listened to Mark Klimek audios. So those are broken down into, he doesn't go into every system. He goes into like some meds, and then he went into certain like acid base. He went into cardiovascular. So when I was doing my UWorld questions for cardiovascular, I would also listen to Mark Klimek either the next day, or I would listen to it. I tried to keep everything kind of bunched up together so that I wouldn't be all over the place. So when I would listen to Mark Klimek as well, I printed out some notes and then I would listen to his audios as I was writing down notes. So it's almost as if I was in the lecture and writing down notes the way I would remember them. So these were, it was like pretty thick. There were 3 packets that I printed out, and then I would go through each lecture for the Mark Klimek. And I feel like that he really helped solidify a lot of like the labs, important labs, prioritization and delegation. I really feel that he is the reason why I was able to remember that. So huge shout out to Mark Klimek. I'll try to link the audios down below, so let me know if you guys are able to access them or not. So those were the resources I used for studying for NCLEX. So I was getting, it was around maybe day 7, day 8 that I was getting to the end of my QBank on UWorld. So what I decided to do was I rescheduled my test to June 28th, and I went ahead and I did my second self-assessment that I purchased on UWorld. On that second self-assessment, I got a high chance of passing NCLEX. So that indicated to me that I was studying efficiently and effectively. The way I was studying was obviously helping me improve my score, because from my first assessment, I got a low chance of passing, and then my second assessment, I got a high chance of passing. And then there's a very high chance of passing. I did not get very high chance, I got high chance of passing. So never once did I feel 100% ready to take this test, and I don't think anyone ever does. So I was just getting to the point where I was reviewing things that I had already reviewed. So I looked on Pearson, which is, you know, the testing center and where you could schedule your test date, and I saw a June 22nd opening, so I scheduled it for that date. And I think I did that like on June 19th. I just scheduled it and I was like, that's it. I need to take this test because my anxiety was getting really bad. So I'm glad I took it when I did, by the way, because I feel like if had I waited until July 15th, I would have just gone crazy and psychotic. So So I continued studying, and I also went over on my UWorld question bank. There is a section that you can go over the questions you got wrong. So I went ahead and I did those, and I made sure that I understood everything. And as far as that, I understood my weak areas, and I had already I knew what those were. Especially from that first self-assessment on UWorld, it kind of helped guide me into what I needed to study. So I continued studying all the way until Friday night. My test was on Saturday at 2 p.m. So I liked that it was later in the day because I was able to, you know, wake up, do what I had to do in the morning. So I woke up at 7 in the morning on Saturday. I went to go work out, and then I came home, showered, made breakfast for me and my family, and then my husband and I took our kids to my mom so she could watch them, and then we drove off to the testing center. We got to the testing center about 3 hours prior to my test time, and it kind of helped relieve some anxiety that I knew where it was at prior to, like, you know, the actual time. So we knew where it was at, and then we went to go have lunch, and then went shopping and tried to get my mind off of how anxious I was. And then finally 1:30 came around, and my husband drove me back to the testing center, and he walked me all the way into the testing facility where the door was, and it said Pearson View Testing Center, and I was so nervous. We did say a prayer together, and then I went inside. So when I went inside, I checked in with the lady in the front, and she got my identification, she took a picture of me, and she got my fingerprints, and she went ahead and assigned a locker to me, and I got the locker, put my water bottle, and you can take snacks and stuff, but I was not gonna have an appetite. I knew it. So I did have a little granola bar and some gum and water, but before the test, I drank water, went to the bathroom, and I tried to calm my nerves a little bit. And what I did that I feel helped was I kept reminding myself that this test is not testing my nursing experience. It's not testing to see if I have 20 years of experience. It's testing to see if I'm a safe, novice, new grad nurse. And this is what we as nurses, we've been, you know, whether you did it AGN or BSN, the last 2 to 3 years, we've been studying the very basics and fundamentals of nursing. So if you put that in your head and you're just, you know, confident that, you know what, I'm gonna try my best, you will do fine. So that's what I kept telling myself. Walked into the room and I told the lady, okay, I'm ready. I also had to read like this confidentiality sheet and sign. So I went inside, met with another lady. She took my fingerprints yet again, and she told me a couple rules and to raise my hand if I needed anything, and she gave me a whiteboard with a little marker, and she said if I needed a new one just to raise my hand. So I told her I was ready, and we went inside. There were other people testing, and she went ahead and led me to a computer, and she logged me in. And then that's when I was told that there were 2 different headsets, one for audio, one for blocking noise, and I use the noise blocking headphones because when I study, I usually study in a quiet environment. I cannot have music, I cannot have sounds, I just like it to be quiet. I think I thrived on that environment because it's similar to what I used when I study. So I went ahead and put the head blocking headphones on, and the lady left, and I went ahead and started my, it wasn't the test. The first thing that you come across is a tutorial on how to navigate the whole, you know, test, and the formatting of the whole screen, the color, the color scheme, the format looked exactly how it does on UWorld. So I think that's what also helps, is that I was a little familiar with how it looked. So I went ahead and did the tutorial, and then it tells you when you're about to begin your test, and you hit continue and go on with it. So I got my first question, and I kept going, and it was interesting because you know when you got a question right, because I got a multiple choice, and I knew that I knew this question, so I hit the correct answer. And then the next one was suddenly a select all that apply, and I'm like, oh gosh. And those select alls are usually very difficult in my opinion. And I also got a lot of drag and drops. I got a lot of select all, and just a lot of every single category. It wasn't just any specific set of questions. So I really wasn't looking at the question number at the top of the screen. I told myself I was going to try to just focus on the question, made sure I read it correctly, and made sure I read the question before I read the options. So then I looked up and it was at question 75, and then I went to 76, and I was a little bummed. I was a little nervous. I was like, what is going on here? So I just kept going about my test, and suddenly at around 105 questions, I really can't recall, but I believe it was 105 because I told myself not to look at the numbers. A screen popped up and it said that my test was done and that I was going to move on to the research questions. So I went ahead and I completed the research questions, not with a lot of enthusiasm because they were very long questions and I was already fatigued at that point. I was tired. I wanted to drink some water. My eyes hurt, and it was just, that day was very emotional for me. So I finished the research questions, and then my NCLEX test thing, I exited, raised my hand. They escorted me out of the room, and I got my stuff out of my locker, and I went about my way. I called Mikey so he could pick me up from the testing facility. He was at the gym, so it took him about 5 to 10 minutes to go and pick me up. So I was waiting outside the testing center, and I was just glad to be done. I had like this huge sense of relief, yet I was very nervous. So I'm in California where we do not have the quick result option. So what we have to do is either do the Pearson VUE trick or wait after 48 hours to look onto the Board of Nursing, type in our name, and see if our license number pops up. So I was just very nervous. I was like, okay, I got like 105 questions. I probably didn't pass. I'm gonna try the Pearson VUE trick. So I enter my card number and I change the expiration date, and I got the good pop-up, the one that says you cannot schedule another appointment because a test has already been scheduled. Something along those lines. I got that pop-up and I was not convinced at all. I was just like, okay, well, maybe this is too soon. I'm gonna wait until 2 hours after my test. So Mikey picked me up. We went to go have dinner. By the way, I had finished my exam. It took about an hour and a half for me, an hour and 30 minutes. My exam started at around 2 o'clock and I was out at around 3:30, 3:40. So we went to go eat after, and then I tried the Pearson VUE trick again, hours after I took my test, and I got the good pop-up. To be honest, I did not trust it. I was like, I'm not going to believe it until I see my license number on that Board of Nursing. So I had to wait 48 hours. So on Tuesday at around 5 o'clock in the morning, I woke up and I was just like so anxious. So I typed in my name on the Board of Nursing, and there it was. My license number was on there, and I just could not believe it. I was so excited. I got a little teary-eyed, but I wasn't as emotional as I thought I would be, because I think I was just so overwhelmed with excitement that I didn't want to cry. I was like, I'm not gonna cry. I got this. I did it. And so that was my experience with the NCLEX, what I used to study. Now, what is next? A lot of people are asking me if I'm working as a nurse right now, and I currently am in the transition phase. So I work at a hospital right now, and I started off as a nursing assistant. There. It's a really great hospital in my area, and they offer a new grad program, so I will most likely be starting that in the fall. So it's still not set in stone as far as the date, because I may be starting sooner than I'm hoping. But yeah, that is the plan. I really want to get into a new grad program just to get that fundamental, the first few years of my nursing career, I really want them to be solid, and I enjoy where I'm working at. So those are the plans. Now, I do want to give a little bit of advice again to those that are planning on taking NCLEX, or those that are starting nursing school. Just keep pushing. Don't ever give up. And just remember, the NCLEX is it'll be a thing of the past. Trust me. So make sure you guys remember that it's going to test to see if you're a safe new nurse. It's not going to test your experience, But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please hit thumbs up if you did like it and if it was helpful in any way. If you guys also want to see more videos from me, be sure to hit thumbs up and let me know down below what you want to see. Follow me on social media. I plan to do a Q&A soon, so I would like to hear from you guys. But anyways, make sure you guys subscribe. I will see you guys in the next one.